it never goes away. Like Knuckle Dude once said, it never goes away. You're always a little nervous. That's probably the biggest thing that Knuckle Dude's ever said that I really stuck to me is you never stop being.
Hello YouTube,
Okay.
what's up? My name is Tran. Welcome to this little podcast interview series. I've got a special guest with me today. He's a pretty well-known figure in the Street Fighter community. He's one of the bigger known coaches in the community, essentially. So, hello. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello guys. I go by Espadah. I play Street Fighter. I'm a Street Fighter coach. I don't know if I would say I'm one of the biggest in 6, but it was definitely true in 5.
Okay.
It was definitely true in 5. I'm being humble here. There's a lot of people that got into coaching that I think deserve the word big attached to it more than me. But I definitely have coached a lot of people in my time. Many hundreds of people.
Right. Correct. Yes. So, yeah. Before I get started, thank you so much for coming here. It's really nice of you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime, man. I love stuff like this. Anything that helps people, anything that gets. I'm sure it's nice because you can't always get everybody to agree to something like this. So being able to get someone that has experience to come on a show like this is probably really good for everyone in general. See the process, what we're going to talk about, what we're going to discuss, right?
Right.
It's hard to get someone like 801 Strider on a show like this too, so I understand that.
That would be nice one of these days.
I mean, it's worth asking him. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so before we get started, generally how we're gonna go about this is I'm gonna ask stuff like just like how the coaching scene is in Street Fighter 6 is one of the things I want to like talk about because I feel like it's a very under-discussed and sometimes misunderstood like topic in the community, very. And I feel like it would be nice to shed some light on it, especially from someone with like your background in particular, right? So before we get started, I'd just like to, for people who just don't know you, like, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and like your background, like fighting games and like coaching in general?
Yeah. I guess how lengthy do you want that description to be?
As lengthy as you can make it, as long as not too much, but yeah.
Not too much, yeah. Okay, because it does require some context. So I've always been the studious type. I like to learn games from the perspective of what is good in the game to do, not just like to do it, but like why is it good? Like I want to understand the intricacy of games. I was this way as a child, so like whenever I would play like Devil May Cry as a kid, and my friends would come over to watch me play, I didn't have internet access to learn like tricks from the internet, but I would like make up my own like this is faster, this is better, this is an efficiency kind of thing. And they would see me do these things and they're like, how do you know to do that? And it's just it makes sense because I studied timings, and then that kind of mindset carries over to everything. My dad was a StarCraft player, so I understood timings. I understood like there's a reason you do this to counter that. The game works this way. Watching my dad play RTS games gave me a foundational respect for the order of things, right? I also play StarCraft a little bit myself. I'm not really that good because I never actually sat down to like play ladder or get better or whatever, but I have a decent understanding of RTS games, and I watch a lot of RTS games. RTS games are very structured. So then whenever I went on to play in other games, I tried to apply the same mindset, and sometimes it's easier or harder based on the game. Like for example, I used to play competitive Call of Duty. This is like COD 4 to Ghost era, so like 2008 to 2014, I was playing Call of Duty competitively. Game battles, tournaments, wager matches once they became a thing, all kinds of stuff like that. And Call of Duty does have an element of studiousness that is good. For example, learning spawns, learning grenades, learning anything you can learn that gives you an edge in any way, right? And this is all things that do matter. But there is an element of Call of Duty as well that being studious is not enough, because there's the executional demand of you must win the gunfight, right? regardless of what you know about the game, eventually comes down to the gunfight. So that part of it you have to just learn as you go. There's no amount of studiousness there that really helps with that. You just learn how to control recoil and do your thing, right? So there's an element of that where it's like, okay, maybe being studious in this game will not be the most efficient use of your time in all cases. Sometimes it's better to focus on winning the mechanical side of it rather than like, oh, I know a little bit, maybe a little bit more than the other person about this map or this game mode, like spawns or nade wise or whatever, or similar things like that. But when you play a fighting game, being studious is rewarded heavily because there's a gap of what is allowed to happen in any given situation between, like, let's say an attacker and a defender based on knowledge. If I know like some sort of let's say we're playing Street Fighter 4 just as an example,
Sure.
and let's say I know some super messed up mix up, like it's an unblockable, which there was unblockable, legitimate unblockables in that game. They got patched out, but for a long time there was legitimate unblockables. If I know this unblockable and you don't even know it exists, I already have a massive advantage over you, because now the moment I touch you, it's no longer like, oh well, you hit me, I hit you, yada yada. Now every time you hit me, it doesn't matter, and every time I hit you, you automatically lose.
Right.
So now our hits, like, even if we were the same skill level in neutral, we're no longer the same skill level in neutral, because even if our hits are 50-50 where we both take turns hitting each other, my hits matter way more. Same with combos, right? The idea of execution behind combo. If you know better, of course that doesn't matter as much these days in like 6, because executionally it's like a closer gap. But like, let's say in 4, if I was really optimal and you weren't, that also makes a huge difference, right? Knowledge gaps in fighting games make the gap widen really far, really fast.
Okay.
So being studious in these games was a benefit to me, because I'm the kind of person that is the nerd. I like to learn like all this, like people see me do stuff and they're like, what, you can do that? This is a thing? I've never seen that before.
Right, yeah. So it's basically like, yeah, but it did go to my next question of like, what like got you into like coaching more so than competing, and it sounds like, is it fair to say like it's more so because it's just who you are as someone who's just very studious, someone who's very like curious to know games in depth like this?
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons. Not all of them are okay, so let me put it like this. I'll start with the main positives. I actually love teaching people, because I have this idea that we all play the same games, man. And I love that. I feel a connection with gamers the moment I talk to them, because I know that I have a huge passion and love for this thing, and I know you do too.
Right.
So check out how cool this is. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna give you something cool. I want to help people have more fun. I think having fun together, learning and growing together is great. I think we should all do more of that.
For sure.
Learning and growing together. It's fun, right? Like if I go to a local and let's say I saw you at my local. Let's say you're someone that's new to, hey, I'm new to Dallas. I'm like, hey man, let's play. And then let's say we play like a 1st to 10, and I see like 5 things you don't know about the game. I'm not correcting them because I want to be some smug elitist. I'm doing it because like, hey, this guy's gonna have way more fun once he knows these things. He's gonna enjoy the game even more. I want people to enjoy the games more. Keep coming back. Keep wanting better for themselves, right? Because it's not as fun when you don't grow, right? And a lot of people tend to feel stuck because they don't know what to work on, they don't know what to practice, and I think that moment of them getting over that and smiling because they're having fun is like a really good feeling for me. The next part of it is honestly, and this kind of sucks, but it's just reality. I never really had a lot of money to travel. I'm not gonna say I grew up poor, because I grew up when I was really little. I was poor. Like I grew up in a really bad neighborhood of Dallas. We had nothing. I mean, I'm quite literally like, I was in like a rented house, and everything in our house was robbed. Like they literally took everything. We had like literally the shirts on our back. I grew up very poor in that early part of my life. But then my dad worked really, really hard and was making good money. And then from like I'd say from like 10 years, like 6 years old, like teen years, we were doing pretty good. So, but I didn't have money to like spend on trips. I wasn't doing that well to do stuff like that. And my parents wanted me to focus on other things. So, for example, with Call of Duty, I never really... I did a lot of online tournaments, but like getting a team together to go to like, hey, let's go to an MLG event in like Anaheim. Like, let's get a team together and go. I never did that because that would involve a lot of resources for my parents they didn't have. So every game I play, I've always stuck to online events, online tournaments, play from home, because it is financially easier on my family. And then when I became an adult and played fighting games, I did travel a little bit. I tried to. It became very expensive very fast because I didn't have tournament experience, so there was a lot of pressure. This is something me and Rushdown have talked about before. My greatest weakness as a player is that I get very nervous under a lot of pressure on me, a lot of expectation, because I keep having these thoughts in my mind like, you know, I paid hundreds, if not over $1,000 to be here, all this travel, all this, like, I have to perform, I have to play well, I have to do well. And the only way to get over that is to do it a lot, right? Because eventually you become numb to it. It never goes away. Like Knuckle Dude once said, it never goes away. You're always a little nervous. That's probably the biggest thing that Knuckle Dude's ever said that I really stuck to me is you never stop being nervous. It's not possible. Right. But you become numb to it. You're able to put it in the background. I never learned to put it in the background because I could not travel enough to do that, and locals, I never felt nervous at locals. Like every time I go to a local or regional, I'm having too much fun to think about that. But when I go to like, for example, I went to EVO 2019, I went to KIT, Kumite, Tennessee. I drove up there with Doc and some other people. Doc, Nigel, Marvin, Berwin, and me. We went in a car together. Things like that, like anytime I went to an event like that, it was really hard on me because I felt this huge pressure, and I just didn't have the money to keep throwing at it to do that. I couldn't swing it financially, so I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can accomplish two goals in one: coaching to make money to support myself, and also coaching to help people achieve their goals even if I can't.
I see. So it sounds like, yeah, like it's really a matter of like you just really want to push people at the stage of like kind of like frustration and uncertainty, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's also just the mindset of, well, if I can't go out there and do something for myself, well, let me at least try to go and help somebody else accomplish their goal or something along those lines.
Correct. Which is why that's one of the reasons I'm very vocal about how proud I was of Grand Todokai when he qualified for Capcom Cup. When I went to EVO 2019, that was my first time meeting Todokai. I met him and his mother there. At the time, in 5, he was a master rank Blanca player. Completely different path in life. He even told me he was thinking about quitting fighting games because he had been playing for 10 years and had never really gotten like better to a certain point. And then we hung out at the Hawaii suite, which is I think Alex Valle owns that suite. I'm not actually sure who funds the suite, but the Hawaii suite's like the West Coast stuff, and they do like invitationals and money matches, stuff like that. Me and Doc commentated on there in EVO 2019, and I was hanging out with Todokai, and we just got to talking. And when we got home, I decided I beat him in pools. That's one reason why. That's why we started talking, and I wanted to help him. So we sat there and I coached him a lot. Like sometimes 4 to 5 hours a day. I would sit on a Discord call with him while he played ranked, while he did anything, I would help him prep for exhibitions, money matches, anything he was doing, tournament runs. Eventually he went from master. I told him to swap to Urian. He swapped to Urian, dropped Blanca completely, went from master to ultimate grandmaster. Then he started like getting really close to qualifying for Capcom Cup in 5. He was starting to get a lot better. He was beating all his nemesises in money matches and exhibitions in the area. He had improved a lot, but he hadn't quite crossed the threshold of Capcom Cup yet.
Right.
And then in this game, he qualified for the Cup, and he actually performed pretty well. He was in the group stages. He was Noah the Prodigy's only loss.
Yeah. I remember. I was watching that on stream.
I was very proud of him. This kind of moment of like growth, seeing people achieve their dreams. Like going to Capcom Cup is a dream for many players.
For sure. Oh yeah.
Right?
Who wouldn't?
And I think that seeing that I've been here every step of the way. I mean, I haven't been the only person that's helped him either. Like a lot of people, he's the kind of person it's hard not to help him because you see how much he cares and it's infectious, you know.
Right. Yeah,
But
he's passionate.
But seeing all from the very beginning to all the steps along the way is it reminds me why I do what I do. It makes me sure that I'm doing the right thing, because that could be any one of you. Anybody I teach could be on that stage one day, and it's not about credit. I don't necessarily care if it's me or someone else that puts them on that stage. A lot of people just like I help Todokai, but there's also like the element of it doesn't matter if it was me or not. I just want them to be on that stage, right? But if no one else will step up and do it, then I need to be the one to be available to help these people.
Okay.
If I had a lot of money I've told a lot of people this before. If I was rich, if I woke up tomorrow and I was a millionaire, like whatever, dude, I would teach for free all day. I don't care. The only reason I ask for money is because I have to eat. Yeah. Oh, and now I have a baby on the way. My wife is 5 months pregnant. So I have to think. Thank you so much. I have to think about that as well, right? Like, because then I have to justify to my wife, why am I spending all these hours helping people if I'm not doing something that benefits our baby, right? So then it's like I have to especially be making money to satisfy the justification for why because if I just tell my wife, hey, I don't, you know, I could be spending all this time doing something else, but like, I really like these people. You know, she's not gonna. It's not gonna fly. It's not. Anyone that's been married knows that that's not how that works.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
You definitely need some sort of income these days. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's why I charge for coaching, and I try to. A lot of people notice I keep my coaching a little cheaper than like some other people. And there's a reason for that too, is because I've realized through my years in this community, I've been in fighting games since 2013-ish. Like Street Fighter 4, Fightcade 1 era is when I started.
Right.
And the thing I've noticed that's like a truth over this community is a lot of these players do not have willy-nilly income. I'm not the only one that is like not able to travel, whatever, it's expensive. I've met many players that do not have like financial security or like a lot of money, right? And I think that that's not fair that coaching is priced out of these people's ranges to afford, because I don't think it makes sense. If you're already wealthy enough to afford expensive coaching, you're wealthy enough to travel to a tournament and play casuals with the best of the best anyway, and ask for and grow in a more natural way. The kind of people I want to help are the people that have no other way. I want to help people that feel stuck, you know, give hope to the hopeless kind of thing.
I see. Yeah.
If they don't have a local and they can't travel, how do they get better? Just play online? Well, how do you learn what to do when just playing online, right? Other than if you're not the kind of person that can like studiously understand the game on your own, in which case you probably don't need me because you'll grow naturally on your own. How do you get better? Just randomly queue into ranked for hours and hours at a time and hope it happens? Like, it's nonsense, right? So these are the people I mostly want to help. People that don't have locals, can't travel, let's say they don't have friends either, like a Discord of group. Which I heavily suggest anyone listening to this. These are the things you need if you want to get better, and you feel like coaching's not the way. Find a local, make friends, join Discords, play daily. It's more important to play consistently than it is to play a lot too. So if you can only play an hour or two a day, that's better than playing 8 hours a day for 1 day a week. I would even say playing a first to two a day, just a first to two, 10 minutes, is better than playing in doing that all 7 days of the week. Is better than playing for 5 hours in 1 day or 2 days of the week.
Right.
Consistency over time spent. It's how our brains learn. So that's my tips for anybody out there. Is find those things. That's how you'll get better.
Yeah, so it's like just making it like a routine more so.
Yeah, make it a routine and find fellow peers to do things with. That's why with my coaching, I like to invite my students into groups where they can mingle with each other and perhaps find fellowship or play each other a lot or bounce ideas around. EX Dojo, like what Elusive and Dr. African have created, is also a perfect example of this. I think EX Dojo is probably one of the biggest initiatives for academy, like player academy growth that I think I've ever seen. And it's based around a dream that Doc had back when he was doing GGEA, which I guess I could talk about now. None of this is like private anymore, or like I'm blanking on the terminology. Like what's that thing you signed? NDA? Yeah. Non-disclosure agreement. None of this is NDA anymore. None of it matters. It's all a million years ago. It doesn't even exist anymore. But so, do you know what Optic Gaming is? It's a big esports company. They do like Call of Duty, Halo, stuff like that. They had something called GGEA back in like the 2017, 2018 era, 2019. GGEA was a player academy subsidiary of Optic Gaming. Optic is based out here in Dallas, Texas, so we locally were like aware of it. They contacted people like Doc. Doc was the general manager for the Street Fighter side of things. And there was like team houses, training academy, like meetups and stuff like that. And when that eventually like dissolved, Doc was like, well, why? Well, why would we stop doing this? This is great. This is amazing. Look how much better everyone's gotten. And that's how EX Dojo was born. EX Dojo was born from a concept of, well, this is actually a great idea. Let's not stop doing this. This needs to continue. Right, and if they won't do it, I'll do it, and the rest is history, I guess.
I see. So it sounds like EX Dojo got created from, I guess, how you'd say it, the death of one thing into the creation of something new, essentially.
Right. Correct. GGEA was like the predecessor to EX Dojo. Mm-hmm. I would definitely say so.
I see. Okay, I see. The predecessor. Yeah. So. Okay, yeah, it sounds like you have a very big background, and there's definitely a lot of credibility. I mean, like, not a lot of people could say that they coach someone into Capcom Cup, right? So that's definitely like a very nice achievement. That's nice on you for that. Okay, so yeah, now we're just gonna kind of move on a bit into like what the I guess the whole spectrum of coaching is in the Street Fighter 6 era of stuff. So it's just like, I just want to get like your general thoughts on it, and I guess the question is like, how has like, in your opinion, like coaching changed in 6 compared to like past Street Fighter titles like Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 4, like
that's big. That's a big question too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm just kind of curious to know like your thoughts on that.
Okay. Am I allowed to start answering now?
Oh, yeah. You're good.
I'm good to go?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I want to start by touching on, you said Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 4. I want to start that prior to 5, coaching in the way it exists now basically did not exist. Mm-hmm. In Street Fighter 4, coaching was very rudimentary and basic to the public. What you would call coaching was scenes, like West Coast, East Coast, whatever, all the different core scenes. At locals had players that were like they grew them. They sat with them, they helped them. Long hours of casuals, lots of advice. Like, for an example, there's a very, very talented Ryu player in Texas named Oliver Queen. I don't think he goes by Oliver Queen anymore, but that's what he went by in 5. He changes his name all the time in 6. I have no idea what it is these days. But he was very strong. The way he got started to learn is he's originally from California, and the person that taught him how to play Shotos was Alex Valle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Alex literally sat with him physically side by side and taught him how to properly throw fireballs, how Ryu works as a character, how footsies works. These concepts, these high-level concepts from a high-level OG like that, are what allowed him to grow on his own and become very, very strong, right? This is typically how coaching used to be, and the reason I say quotation fingers is because it's not really coaching in the sense of like what we do now. but in a very rudimentary way. It is what it is. Like you grow these players, you build the next generation. But it used to be very, very cliquey and very much like if you're not from New York or from one of these scenes, forget about it. Right? So like if that's why NLBC, for example, in Street Fighter 4, all the level in NLBC was very high. You have RLBS, Smug, you know, Hai Chin. You have, I hate to say his name now because of all this stuff, but Arturo. You have all these players, right? There's a huge amount of high. Sanford, good friend of mine, good guy. Sanford was an amazing Sagat player. There's so much talent and skill in that region, and anybody that comes up in that region, you know, Master Mike, that's another great example. Coach Steve, you know, this is the era that gave birth to players like IDOM, like Punk, because this radiating level of talent from a region, it grows people, right?
Yeah.
So like then I would say like that's like the next generation. The generation after that generation is like that you have your IDOM, Punk, Tommy, people like that, like the came up in the East Coast afterward. Punk played for, and he was good, but he wasn't like, for example, like Smug won everything. Like if we're talking NLBC, like the weekly events with all the money behind them, because by the way, NLBC was big back then. Regional like events like Wednesday night fights and NLBC, they happen on the same day at different time slots. It was NLBC first, then Wednesday night fights afterward. Wednesday night streaming for Street Fighter 4 was big numbers. I mean, NLBC used to get like 5,000-6,000 viewers every single Wednesday. Huge. Smug won literally every week. He was unstoppable. Like anyone that was around back then, that time period, knows what I'm talking about. He would sign up as like Pi Warthog. He would give himself like random names, and every time I saw Pi Warthog, all I could think of was Pumbaa. You know, like he would just make up random ass names. He was having fun with it. And you know, I watched the moments like when Sanford threw his stick or whatever. All the moments like that, right?
Yeah.
But this era was heavily dominated by like Smug, for example. I think everybody would say he was the best at the time, at least locally, like winning NLBC, he was doing the best. But then you had players come up afterward that, of course, Smug is still incredible, but you had players come up after that were truly world class. IDOM winning Capcom Cup and all kinds of other events he's won. Punk, I mean, he needs no introduction. He's the current Street Fighter 6 Evo champion.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
On top of also in 5, he was the winningest player of the game. He won literally every single tournament from like season 2 to like season 3.5 or 4. Like there was like a huge span of time. Punk won literally like 18 events in a row or something crazy like that. He has the most points ever for a CPT. Like his CPT was points based back then. He had the most points of any CPT season ever. Like it was a record. And then he also, I think he set a record for the largest tournament winning streak of a Street Fighter player ever. So like it was insanity. Like but that was the same year, 2017, where he got winners side grand finals at Evo, and he ended up losing to Tokido. And Tokido fighting games were something so great, that legendary moment, right?
Yeah, who can't forget?
Everybody thought Punk was gonna win Evo that year. He looked unstoppable. He looked like nothing can deter him from victory, right? He's already won everything else this year. Just take Evo 2, right? And then Tokido did something that shocked us, which it shouldn't be a shocker. It's Tokido, but it was a shocker at the time, and he defeated Punk in 2 different sets because Tokido came from losers. A lot of people don't remember that, but Tokido actually came from losers in that set.
Yeah.
So, but you know, obviously now he's an Evo champion and yada yada. He's one of the greatest players to ever play a fighting game. But that generation that came afterward was born from the energy coming out of the scene in 4. You know, I really do believe that if people weren't trying so hard to improve in 4 and building such a strong scene, those kinds of players might never develop that way. you know. And then you have players coming out of the West Coast that are incredible too, and it's all because of, again, previous generations of strong players that pass the torch. Passing the torch is a very important thing in any competitive-minded field, right? Because there's a concept of your time in the sun is done eventually. Not because age, you get like you're not able to compete anymore, but life priority usually, right? So you do get to but it's like Bonchan. Bonchan kind of half retired because he had kids, he had twins, right? He won Evo and then he retired. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
Bonchan's good enough to keep playing. It's not like his level went down or anything. It's just other things in life. So Bonchan has also helped people in Japan. Why let your skills and knowledge die with you? Why not pass it on? Maybe they take it further than you ever did. Maybe than you ever dreamed of.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, so that's like why coaching has changed a lot. So in 4, it was more locally based. You had to be in the right region. If you paid for coaching online, it was hit and miss because it was an unpracticed thing. People didn't really know how to teach. You had to be like a certain level of player to really benefit from it. And then in 5, general coaching, basically, I'm not gonna take all the credit and say like EX Dojo GGA practically invented it, but it kind of felt like it, because anytime I looked at coaching online at the time, it was like kind of dead, non-existent. And then I guess I could talk about this. This isn't an NDA thing or anything. I was approached by Metafy to coach on. They asked me to coach on their platform, and I was kind of skeptical at first. I was like, man, we'll see how this goes. And then I did it. I was one of the only Street Fighter coaches on the platform. I was actually, I was one of the first. I think I wasn't the only one. I remember there being one other person or 2 other people at the time when I joined. But I was one of the first to ever coach on Metafy for Street Fighter, and I was at the time by far the largest. I was number. So back then they got rid of it, but they used to have a metric that compared you with other coaches, like how they're doing, like coach ranking based on like how much money you're making. I was number 1 for like practically a year. Like it wasn't even close either. Like the next closest person to me was like, if it was like actually like numbers wise, like if it could be ranked 1 through 20, I was 1 through 18 and they were like 19 and 20. It was like not even close.
Not far ahead, eh?
Yeah. Like, well, I don't think they were active as well. So like they weren't really focused on it. People weren't really like thinking about it yet. Now everybody has a Metafy. Everyone's on Metafy. Everyone's teaching, which is good. I think that's wonderful. But it definitely like saturates it now, which is, again, it's a good thing. You go on Metafy now, and you see a million names you recognize, and then it's about finding the right fit for you. Well, who's the right fit? It's hard to figure that out, because sometimes you get a coach and maybe they're not for you. You want to try someone else. Their teaching style is different. Also, some people just can't teach that. And no shade or anything. I think they know it too. They just can't teach they're not teachers in that same sense, right? Not everyone can teach the same. But I definitely taught the most in that time period. And also at my local, I was actively teaching. I was teaching a lot of people at my local. I had a couple locals here in Dallas in 5, and there was a lot of new players. For all the flack 5 got about being like the worst entry of the game ever, a lot of people said stuff like that online. There was a lot of new players that were getting into the game that really loved it. And they were like, man, this game's awesome. How do I get better? And sometimes, it's hard to sit there with a raw beginner that doesn't even know how to throw a fireball properly for like 2 hours and teach them things. But I have like, not to toot my own horn or anything, I'm a very patient person when it comes to things like this. I'm totally fine to just sit there with you and chill while you go over things I'm teaching you. I'm not like gonna be like impatient with people or anything. So I like to sit there at my local and help people. I think it's important because no one else is seemingly willing to do it, and I think that it matters more than sometimes even my own improvement. Because now I look at 6 and there's a bunch of new players I don't recognize, lots of new names, and that's good. Some of these people exist because other people help them get better, and now it's a different landscape. And you know, the alternative is, what if all the OGs retire because they have life shit, and there is no one to replace them, and then the scene dies, and there's nothing, and that's just sad, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
I've seen it happen. There's plenty of scenes that have gone that way, and I don't want that to happen here. I think I love Dallas. I love this city. I love these people. These are my family. I want this scene to continue no matter what. So whatever that means, whatever the shape, you know, right? We used to have versus gameplay. We had 3G. We had the EX Dojo physical classroom at Geek Leets. EX Dojo used to have a physical classroom. It's kind of awesome. Then now there's like the Suplex up in Plano, and then we do Arcade here in Fort Worth. And Arcade is more like the traditional like OG fighting game vibe. You know, there's people playing Alpha 2, big Third Strike crowd. The guy that won Texas Showdown last year and his top 8 winners right now for Third Strike is a weekly regular there. Third Strike cabs and rows. You know, people playing CVS 2, people playing Marvel 2 on Dreamcasts. You know, like Dragon Ball, Street Fighter 6. It's very OG-ass crowd. In a dingy little arcade room with lights down low, music playing, you know, alcohol's allowed. It's that kind of vibe, right?
Okay.
And I like places like that. But then Suplex is more like a modern, like local, where it's like rows of systems, and then, you know, there's a bracket. We don't really do brackets at arcade. We just play, right? But Suplex is where you go if you want to run a bracket. We do run brackets at arcade, but it's not a weekly thing. It's like a monthly. We do something called Super Dash.
I see. So, yeah,
but it's a different vibe, right? I want this scene to not die. I want it to continue. A lot of the people from my era during 5 don't play anymore or have moved away. For example, Doc. Doc doesn't live in Dallas anymore. He moved to Vegas. So he's gone. He's no longer here to teach people. He taught me. He taught Marvin. He taught a lot of people. He's not here to do that anymore. Somebody has to.
Right.
I need to step up and do it, right? Otherwise, no one will. Hoy, I love him to death. OG-san, he's originally from Louisiana. He went back to Louisiana, so he's not here no more, right? Nigel used to live here when Doc was here because he was learning from Doc. Nigel went home. One of our other OG players, Wally, really, really talented player. He's busy with life stuff. Marvin is one of the last remaining like OGs from our scene, like from the 5 era, that's still like doing well, competing, still doing stuff. And you know, then it's me and him, and then it's like, I guess there's a couple other stragglers that are still hanging in there, but a lot of them have either moved on because they don't like 6 or life stuff or whatever. And I think it's sad because they're all still very talented players. So who's the next generation, right? Who comes next? And that is something I think needs to be protected and nurtured. These people are our future, you know, just like your children are your future, you know.
Gotta carry the legacy, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I think coaching's changed a lot actually, because it's no longer. It is still about regions in the sense that you want to nurture your scene, but now it's accessible to everyone worldwide, no matter where you're from, who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I coach people in Europe. I've coached people in the Middle East. I've coached people from Japan. I've coached people in Taiwan. I've coached people in all over the United States, Canada, everywhere. And that was not possible back then.
No, not at all.
Just not the way it is now. It was a different world.
So
I think we're in the good timeline right now. We're in the good timeline.
That's good to hear. So it sounds like, yeah, a lot of coaching back then, like especially Street Fighter 4 era in particular, was all about like, well, either you lived in a good scene for that or you didn't, essentially. And that's basically how you got better. And nowadays, 6, because information is so much more accessible, right? There's more opportunities to like bring information to people. Now it's like everybody has the potential to be in Capcom Cup because all these resources are available to them now, essentially.
Right.
So
I will say, to touch on that a little bit, there is a thing that has happened in 6 that I do have my eye on that is a little troublesome. Is there is a new subset of beginners that are talented, and because information is so accessible, they don't think they need help from others as well, which is maybe true. Maybe they don't. But the problem is that they don't phrase it as they don't need help from others personally. They tend to say things like, well, I got good without it, so coaching is worth nothing. Right? Why? Who would ever need coaching when you can just do it yourself? That kind of mindset is problematic because not everybody is the same level of like attuned to the game that like an up-and-comer might be. Maybe like something just it all clicked with you, right? And it felt natural, and you don't realize that that's actually not normal. That's what we call talent, is when something clicks with you easily. That's what talent is your ability to like, this is like other things I've done, or like you've done similar things, you have a natural affinity for it. For example, executionally talented people, you look at their background, they usually played piano or guitar as a kid or something, right? Like there's always a reason why it's more they have a natural affinity for it. A lot of people don't understand that just because it was easy for them doesn't mean it's easy for everybody.
For sure, yeah.
And they don't look at all the reasons. And when you say things like, well, you don't need to do it, anyone can do it, who needs coaching? You know, I think it's a little dismissive of people that lack that thing. And also they tend to try and phrase it in a way that can make coaches seem predatory, which predatory coaches have existed, and I hate these people because they're the whole idea is hope and helping people get past blockades and all and growth, right?
Yeah.
But these people don't really care. They're just doing it because they want to get paid, and I think that's messed up. But not everybody's like that. It's bad apples in anything, right? There are a lot of people, like, I think Dr. African's a great example. He really, really does care about people getting better. You know, I literally used to go to his apartment and I bugged the crap out of him about every single thing. And he was always patient with me and made a lot of... he did more for me than any normal person would for another person. Like, I was annoying him to the point of like, hey, like, I don't even need a bed. I'll sleep on your floor. My jacket will be my pillow. Like I was bugging him to that point about it, and he was like, yeah, sure, man. You know, like, when you really care, and you see someone else cares, it's hard to sit there and just do nothing. You want to help them. Like I said, the only reason I even charge people is because, you know, that's just life. I can't really get around it. I'm not rich, right?
Yeah.
I have to live somehow. I have to eat somehow. And if coaching requires this many hours to do it, that's hours I'm not working or doing something else, right? So like it has to, I have to make it make sense in my life to be able to continue doing it, right? Otherwise, I would just sit around coaching people for free. Hey, let's get better.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I coach for free at my local. Find me here. How about this? Move to Dallas and I'll coach you for free. Anyone that doesn't want to pay, come to Dallas. I'll teach you for free then, because you know it's different.
Deal.
But because I'm already at the local, so it's not like I'm taking time out of like working or my day to sit there for hours and do it. I'm already there to play, right? So it's more like it was back in the day. Whereas like now, like let's say I was to sit at my computer for 4 hours. Well, that's 4 hours I'm not with my wife. 4 hours I'm not doing work. 4 hours I'm not furthering education. 4 hours I'm not going to the gym, bettering myself. You know, like there's all these things you sacrifice to help people, and there's only so many days, weeks, months you can do that for free before those hours add up and take a toll on your life.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So you gotta make.
So
gotta make it a job.
It has to make sense. It has to make sense, right? I would love to help people, but it has to make sense. But I do think there are predatory coaches that they just phone it in, and I do not like these people. I think they're scum. Because they take advantage of people that are desperate and want help. They need someone to help them, and I think that anyone that preys on people that need help or asks for help is just the lowest.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. So.
But I do worry about it because there's a lot of up and comers that don't think coaching is and there actually has been a little bit of a decline in the reason this is important is because actually has been a decline in coaching a little bit. A lot like for example like I've talked to some other top coaches on Medify. The amount of students signing up. I won't name any names of who I talked to because I don't know if they want that actually like broadcasted. But the people I've talked to have told me that it's been like a drought a little bit, and a lot of that has to do with I think 6 is naturally the kind of game where, for example, one of the hardest things to understand that I taught the most in 5 was footsies, and in 6 it's like just drive rush.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not that simple. Footsies does matter, but I think the common perception is that it doesn't. So people are like, well, why would I learn that? I'm just gonna drive rush more.
Yeah, right.
But they don't know that they should learn footsies. They need to learn footsies, but they don't. They don't think it's important, so they stop learning it. And then like there's for everything else, like the information is so readily available, and top players it's easy to watch people play. They just learn the rest. They learn offense and defense through that, and they're like, oh well, neutral. We're just drivers. Just jump. Why not?
Why not? Yeah. So 6 basically changed the landscape a little bit, where it's like. It downplays a few things that are important, even though like they still are, essentially.
They still are, yeah. The best of the best are still winning because of it. Punk doesn't win because he's drive rushing. He's winning because he's out neutraling everybody.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the best of the best players are still playing neutral, but the common perception is that it doesn't matter as much, or that it doesn't matter until high level. But I think it matters at all levels because. You can't like go, oh well, I'm gonna get to top level and then I'll learn footsie. Well, no, because you'll never even get to top level in the first place. You can't. It's a required skill to win.
Right.
To be consistent. It's just how fighting games work, right? So I think perception of the game, there's also the perception of people that have stopped getting coaching because they don't like the game. They don't think the game has a good direction, and they're like, well, I'll learn other games, right? And there's been a push for like a lot of people have gone to Tekken, gone to other games like Virtua Fighter, City of the Wolves, right? I like City of the Wolves. I'm definitely gonna be on that game. I think that game's sick. I think 6 has potential to get better too, so I don't think people should be just giving up on 6. But I do think 6 needs some things to change to keep people. At first, it drew a lot of people in,
right?
And now it's having trouble keeping these people, retaining those people. I think it did a lot of good things at first, and then now it's like, for example, bad communication when it comes to patches. Not a lot of costumes, like basically no content updates that are not related to Avatar Battle. They're not doing a great job of explaining their reasoning for why things are this way. They're just kind of like, yeah, well, you know, one costume every year maybe. Like it's like they're not, but they don't put out like Tekken, like Harada. He puts out posts on Twitter like explaining like the state of the game, like here's why we're doing it this way. Here's what's been going on at Bandai Namco behind the scenes. Why are things like going on this way? He explains everything, and it makes sense. And then it's like, okay, well, we can't be mad. But Capcom is very radio silent, and I think that grows the frustration of like, well, where is the content?
Yeah.
What? It gets boring. It's like, dude, like I can only play this game over and over for a year, same meta, same characters, same everything, and it can only be the same for so long before like it gets old. You know, like.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but it is kind of a stale meta, and we're about to get a big patch pretty soon, and hopefully that changes things and brings people back in.
Yeah, season 3.
But I am worried that like if season 3 patch drops, and it's like we waited a whole year for like a very lightly sprinkled patch, like yeah, we like the game the way it is. I think we're gonna leave it this way. Hope you guys have fun. Enjoy season 3. Like here's the next pop for Capcom Cup 13 or whatever. But I don't think people will stick around. I think it's going to be really hard to keep people interested. I do worry about that. And that does affect coaching, because if you do not have people interested in learning the game anymore, because for whatever reason, then obviously coaching will decline. And if coaching declines, like I said, it has to make sense. We can't just sit here why? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if coaching declines, coaches don't want to coach. It's that simple.
True.
Because like we can't. Well, there'll still be the people like me that want to do it just to do it, right? But you're not gonna get like. It's not gonna make sense for Punk to coach if no one's wanting coaching.
Yeah.
He's gonna put all his time into other things.
It would make more sense, right? You still have to make money at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't detract from anything either if no one's signing up for coaching, because it's not like you're waiting around like waiting for someone to sign up for coaching either. I'm already doing. I get a notification. I guess it doesn't hurt anything particularly, but people will like have a disconnect from the coaches and the coachee, I guess. And I think that hurts people in the long run because there's a lot to learn from top players that know how to, especially ones that do know how to teach and they do know what they're saying.
Right,
you know?
yeah.
And I think people in 5 got a lot better because of coaching. A lot better. Someone I will say is a prolific coach, an incredible coach. Zaffarino. Zaffarino is an incredible coach. He's very good at what he does. And I think if people stop seeing the value in what he has to offer, it's like the death of the intellectual side of fighting games. Because it's like what he's offering is worth its weight in gold. In Street Fighter 4, if you could sit down next to someone that knows what Zaffarino knows and knows how to translate it the way he does, that's someone you would stick to like white on rice, like glue. Like that's someone that's like, if I went to a local and I met someone like that, I'm going to his house. I'm asking if I can sleep over and we can go over on the weekend, right? I'm trying to play it casual every minute. Like that's someone you stick to because that's how you get better. You find people that are like that and you pester them. That's how it was. You pester the people that are knowledgeable like that until you get and then I think that if people don't see the value in that, that's kind of distressing. That's the way I want to put that. It's very distressing.
Yeah, like there's a bit of a worry.
It's not at that point yet. We're still at a good 50-50 balance, I think. But I do worry about the pendulum swinging if the patch is not good. Because people will leave. There will be a section of people that leave the game, and a section of people that are like, well, if the game's not going to become more fundamentally oriented, there's no point in learning that. I'm just going to do whatever I want.
So, it sounds like, yeah, there's definitely a bit of a worry too, where like the future of coaching really depends on like just like the overall like state of the game, like what Capcom plans to do with the game, essentially, like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, from the like I said, from the Capcom side of things, it's simply keeping the players interested. If players get bored, they drop the game. It's true of every game. There was bad patches in 5 that a lot of players, the player rate dropped. Season 2 and 2.5 are notable examples of this. I almost quit. Actually, I'm gonna be honest. There was like a 2-month period in that year I didn't play. 2-3-month period I didn't play. I could not stomach 5 at the time. Balrog was super broken. They had nerfed Nash, and I was a Nash player at the time. And I didn't really want to swap yet. This is before my Shoto journey. This is before I started playing Shoto.
Okay, yeah.
And I did drop the game for a while, but I almost quit entirely. I was like, bro, this is bullcrap. Like, this patch sucks so bad. And I didn't want to stomach a whole year of that. I was like, no, I think I'm okay. Dude, Boxer was crazy, bro. He was crazy.
I remember Season 2, the way it was, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then also Season 3, when 3.0, before 3.5, 3.0 Abigail was insanity. 3.5 they fixed it, and it went back to not. We went from a fairy tale to at least Candyland. But I guess in Season 4 went from Candyland back to reality. But Season 3.0 was a fairy tale. That was Fairy King Oberon Abigail. Like his dreams came true. He thought of it and it worked. It was insanity. He had throw loops with command throw. He literally did like 950 damage on a combo. It's like this is like a little kid's version of like, I want to make a fighting game character, but then they just give them everything. Like, yeah, and also if I punch you, it does your whole life bar. But if you punch me, it does nothing. Like, you know, when little kids play pretend or something. Yeah, it was like who designed this character? It made no sense.
Yeah.
A lot of people stopped playing at that time. I remember a lot of people were like, yeah, I don't want to fight this. I'm good. I'll see y'all next. That patches do affect people's desire to play, because there's no point in playing games if it's not fun. At the end of the day, games are about fun. Yes, we're here to compete. Yes, we want to be the best. Yes, we want to get better. But that's the reason, the motivator for these things is that we love the game and it's fun. Otherwise, why would we not just play another game or do something different with our lives?
Exactly.
The game must be fun. The game must be balanced. I'm not going to say balanced, because balance is not always fun. But if you have everybody else mostly fair, and one character stands above the rest and is like ridiculous, for example, Luke at the end of the game, that's not fun. No, like I didn't want Luke to be that way either. Luke at the end of 5 ruined the game. He was so much better than everybody else. Yes, he had counters. He was more fair than I think 3.0 Abigail in a way, because he had sensibility, at least like Street Fighter sensibility. His toolkit outside of his V trigger, he still had to like play the game. Abigail didn't even have to play the game. He was insanity. But like Luke was bad for the game. That was a bad. If 5 had another year, that had to stop. That had to go away. The character can't stay like that. That's not good for the game. And I feel the same way about 6 now. There's like a lot of the game's actually pretty balanced character-wise, but it's not seemingly fun for some people to do the same things over and over again. Like throw looping, for example. I was trying to skirt around it without mentioning, but I guess there's no point now. Throw looping has to go. Otherwise, people will drop the game. It's not good for beginners, because beginners will go, oh, this game doesn't seem very skillful. Why would I play this? It's not fun to be throw looped. No beginner is going to pick up a game and go, wow, this is awesome. He's thrown me like 8 times. Like nobody likes that. Like nobody wants to endure that. And if I tell a beginner, hey, this is just how the game is, get used to it, they're gonna be like, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to deal with that. And then a top player too. You know how frustrating it is to practice all these millions of different techniques and strategies just to get thrown like 8 times in a row, and then you finally tech, you're tired of it, and then you die. It's like, come on, bro. It's annoying. Like nobody wants this.
Nobody likes losing the throw loops, and nobody has any fun doing it too. Is the trend.
Right. Well, it's also because like getting shimmied in 5 was actually kind of sick, because they had so many other options. Like you could backdash, jump away, delay jump back. You can just take a throw. There was no like throw looping or whatever. So when you shimmied someone in 5, it was like damn, that was a call out. Right? Like that was really good. It wasn't actually that common. It was like at lower level or like playing ranked, you shimmied all the time, but like at a high level, you did not see shimmies like that often, because people were not teching like that. Right? Like it was much more rare. Now people have to tech. Well, they shouldn't. They should still do other things like jump forward, for example. Jump back, jump forward. Like meta in 6, because jump forward in the corner is better than teching. Jumping back mid-screen is really good. Yeah, people still do these things, but when you see shimmies in 6, it's like, from a fundamental standpoint, what choice did that player have? He had, it's that or die. Like it's that or die, right? A lot of people are like, well, you're getting throw looped over and over. Just tech the throw, bro. Yes, but I don't know if he's gonna shimmy or me or not. He could. It's not like he's unable to shimmy. Every single one of these throws could be a shimmy. And I see that he has level 3, and I see he has a full drive gauge. I'm dead. Well, let's say you're fighting a Kuma. Like, he's gonna delete me. Like 68%.
He does, yeah.
Like, so it's either I take a 12% throw or a 68% combo. It's like, even if he throws me 5 times, it's still better than getting shimmied once. It makes no sense. Now, in a world where there's no throw loop, you know, I definitely would say the shimmy would stop too, and then the game becomes a lot more sensible. I just don't think it can stay this way. It's gonna push away beginners, and I don't want that.
Right.
So coaching has declined a little bit for these reasons. It's also we're not in a main CPT season right now. The season's ended with Capcom Cup being over. Like right now, there's a mixture. There's people that don't want to practice because the season's over with, and people that do want to practice to prepare for the next season. So I've had some students fall off because there's no point in their mind, and some students sign up because they want to get ready for when the season starts in the next season.
Right.
It all depends on your mindset. I guess where you're at as a player too.
Yeah, true. Okay. I see. So yeah, while it has gone better in some ways, overall has just again declined a little bit just because of the state of the game.
It's like a wave, like in an ocean. It's
Right.
down and up, kind of like that. And there's differing reasons for why it goes down and up.
Okay.
I feel like it was more steady and more stable in 5. There was always someone that wanted to learn and get better. The game didn't. The game wasn't so controversial with mechanics. So,
I see.
I think it was just more stable. Like coaching was a lot more stable in 5. Neutral was like the main focus of the game. 5 is a very slow defensive game. You can check dashes and anti-air jumps on reaction. So what's left? Well, you gotta play neutral. That's just it. Like, let's say you're a Karen player. If you can't play neutral, how do you even play the character? What's she do? It's not like she doesn't even have special moves you can abuse to like you couldn't even say you could scrub someone out with Karen. It's like impossible. Like how do you win if you don't confirm or whip punish anything?
Right.
You literally can't.
You have to learn neutral with that character.
Exactly, and there's a lot of characters like that in 6. Well, I mean in 5, where it was like that was just like what else do you do? Like it's that or you just don't play, right? So there was a lot of people like, well, I want to learn this footsie thing, and then there's that, but that doesn't exist as heavily in 6. But I think if throw loops go away and the game stabilizes, there might be a resurgence in people going, well, this footsie thing is kind of tight. I kind of like this whole. I kind of like getting a punish counter with Ken stand heavy kick and carrying you to the corner. I want to get better at that, or with punishing in general, right? Like with any character, I think there'll be a resurgence in better poking, better counter poking, better whiff punishment. I say whiff punishment, but that's not the only part of footsies, right? A lot of people overly focus on whiff punishment. There's more to footsies than just that, and I think that will be more of a focus in the future. And then yeah, you'll see a resurgence in that again. People want to learn these concepts. Right now, it's just not a main focus, and that's fine.
Yeah. So if the game changes and tries to like really just reward fundamental play more so than like try to push like it's like I guess it's Street Fighter 6-ish like mechanics, then you feel like coaching will definitely have more of a place in the metagame.
Yeah, because coaching is generally. It doesn't take a lot for me to teach strategy related to game mechanics, because I can do all that. That's easy. And also that's easy enough to learn. There's a limit to how deep that information can get. Right? I can teach them the 5 layers attached to meter and strategy and how all that works. And cool, you got it. That's the system mechanics. Then it just comes down to practicing it, right?
Yeah.
But player interaction, that is a whole different ball game, because player interaction is an infinitely scaled thing. It doesn't like if I play 2 beginners against each other, that's one level of play that like will look a certain way. That completely changes if the level is even slightly different. Then with intermediates, right? It looks like solid Street Fighter when they're the same level of intermediate, and then devolves away from that if one player is better. Then at the top level, there's this guy, even if he's just right this much better, like really close, he's gonna beat everybody from here down, easily. And then you get back up to here again, same level, and then you see world-class matches, right? That's not a perfect example, but there's like varying degrees, right?
Okay.
And the thing is, when you have such a big gap in level, it's hard to try to figure out how I want to work this. It's hard to know exactly what is important and what's not. Right? So there's a lot of people that don't even know that neutral is like important because they don't see it when they watch the game. Because not because it's not happening, but because they don't recognize it for what it is. Because it's not been something that's been talked about or incentivized as much. But it's still there, right?
Right, yeah.
So I've played people in ranked and talked to them afterward that are as high as 1700 MR. That I was like, hey, so like what do you? I saw you do this in neutral and footsies. Like, what's your game? They like footsies. He'd never heard the term footsies before. He was 1700 MR. He'd never heard the word footsies before.
Oh,
he didn't even know what that was.
Really? Okay.
Like, I'm serious. This happens. Like people, I'm not saying 1700 is like the cream of the crop. Obviously, like 2K MR is like where you get to the top level. But this player is he's still decently head and shoulders above a lot of the player base.
Right.
He's never even heard the term before. He was like, huh? What's these? I want to show you my feet. I was like, bro, no. I'm talking about like this game concept, right? He's never heard this in his life.
Not at all.
He knew what a whiff punish was, but he knew about nothing else related to neutral. He thought whiff punishment was you just sit there, and then if they randomly whiff for no reason, you just hit it. Like, yeah, no. Yeah, no, that'd be whack. Right. But it's like, I guess I'm getting a little off topic here, but my point is that yes, it matters. Player levels can variously degree based on the perception of a patch, what the game is pushing, the mechanics of the game. But I can teach the base level of mechanics, but player interaction is where things matter, right? That's where people get really bad. Can either be really bad or really good. Is that if I tell you walk up jab is strong with Cammy because you can counter hit and crouch medium punch, that information is useless if you don't understand how to walk up and hit the button. And it's like, well, why would you need to explain that? Just walk up and hit the button. That sounds brain dead. That sounds easy. It's not. It's way more complicated than that. There's actually a lot that goes into that, and some people might say that overcomplicates it, but it is more complicated than just doing it. And that's where it comes into the people that can just do it are the people that are naturally affinity. The people that cannot need the explanation. There is a lot of layers that go into simple things in Street Fighter and neutral. Because you could just get, what if you walk up jab and you do it wrong and you just get counter hit 40 times, or every time you walk up they do crouch medium kick drive rush. Well, suddenly my advice doesn't sound that good. Hey, you told me walk up jab with Cammy's good, but every time I do it, they do crouch medium kick drive rush. Well, you're walking up from too far away. It's reactable when you walk from that far away. You have to first get closer, like stand medium kick, heavy kick range, wait for a while for a good timing, then walk up jab when you feel like they're being passive. See, suddenly that's a lot more complicated of a explanation than just walk up and do jab.
Right, yeah. Because
do I walk up and do jab from here? Do I walk up and do jab from here? There's nuance. That nuance is why neutral. There's every single moment to moment interaction in a fighting game is an infinitely it's like the multiverse. It's all like, you can almost call it like the butterfly effect, string theory, whatever you want to get into to explain like the chaos theory effect of how all the different things that can happen in neutral. I have 12. Let's say 12. I'm gonna use 12 as a number. I have 12 buttons I can press at any given moment. Every single frame and second in a fighting game is a different moment. You have 12 things you could do, 12 buttons you can press, without counting movement, without counting the millions of options that suddenly kicks us up to. If I was to compute this, my math is probably bad, but it comes out to like 10,000 variables.
Okay.
Every single second, not even second, frame. I would say every frame that you could do something on. What if I do this a frame later? What if I did this a frame earlier? Well, if I did it a frame earlier, I get counter hit because I was too early. If I do it a frame later, you press first, I whip punish you. Even something like one frame can matter. So you have to look at every single frame and every single second is an entirely different timeline and universe that everything can change based on your decision. It's that complex. People don't understand that it's that complex. It's that level of depth. You can break it down and make it really simple, but it comes down to what decisions did you make in these key moments? What if in a different timeline, rather than shooting the fireball and getting jumped in on, you had decided to whiff a button and wait first? Right? How different would the match have been if you need that jump in? All these decisions matter, moment to moment. Well, what if he only jumped because you crouched and then threw a fireball? What if you had whiffed a jab, then shot the fireball, so your character never crouched? Maybe he never jumped. Like, it gets to that level of, like, what are all these timelines that exist that if you had done something slightly infinitesimally different, the whole entire thing changes.
Yeah, so it is almost like a butterfly effect where one small thing can really dictate a lot of just what happens, right? And that's something that
Correct.
a lot of players, like just below the top level, just I guess wouldn't really understand from 6 in particular, it seems.
Not for, or from any fight, honestly, from any fighting game. It's almost impossible, unless you're some sort of super genius, even far beyond my ability to comprehend how smart you are. A beginner just walking up to a screen, looking at fighting games, going, I see all the different computational. No, bro, no one's that smart. Like, nobody. I don't care. I don't care if you're literally 200 IQ, like legitimately, like. But by the way, like Albert Einstein level, Stephen Hawking, that's like 178. By the way, if you're like some sort of 200 IQ genius, like I don't even think they could do that. Because it's one thing with chess, because you have a board with a finite play field and pieces that can only move a certain way. But what if I made that chessboard 7 times larger with 7 times as many pieces and added 5 new pieces that move in different ways? I don't think there's a human brain anymore that can compute all those different moves. It's impossible.
Right, yeah. There's too much.
I could be wrong. There could be some sort of super genius out there that could do it. But fighting games are a chessboard that is infinitely larger than a chessboard with infinitely more moves that are possible. Right? So, and I'm not even saying I understand all of it. I can't. No one can. I don't think any one player has the entirety of the chessboard understood. They all have just sections of it, large sections of it they've learned. Right? And some of these sections overlap, right?
Yeah.
I think there's players that have more of it than others. Like, I think, like, for example, you look at the world's greatest, in either at world's greatest now and world's greatest in history, right? And these players have learned, for example, John Choi, greatest fireball thrower in history. Mena said it, Punk said it. Everyone knows that John Choi is the king of fireball. He always will be, because his understanding of that piece of the chessboard is just way higher than anyone else's, right? Which is why if you're studying fireball, he's the best guy to study. But even he doesn't have a complete picture. Otherwise, he would still be playing right now and winning everything if he wanted to.
Right.
He's also missing pieces. Maybe that's due to, like, he doesn't want to learn it because he has a life priority, right? Maybe he could, but I don't know. But the point is that, like, if I ask like a grappler player to play a Shoto, maybe they can, maybe they can't. Like Snake Eyes is a really good Shoto player, but maybe not all of them can do that. Maybe it doesn't necessarily translate this piece of the chessboard to that piece of the chessboard. They don't understand the same tool sets. It's more like if I asked a Dhalsim player to play Zangief, they wouldn't get it. They wouldn't understand how to do that. It's a different skill sets, and nobody has all the answers to every single piece of it. But I do think that when I teach neutral, I feel confident that I know enough about how to approach learning those different skill sets. Because I'm a jack of all trades who plays the whole roster in every game I'm in. I think I can do that. I think it's something I've always tried to focus on. So the more the scene benefits from learning footsies or neutral, the more like they want to learn these concepts, the better I personally can teach.
Right. Okay.
If you want to learn how to create strategy through system mechanics, you're actually better off asking anime players. Or, like, for example, I'm going to tell someone right now, if you want to learn how to play a game, how to break a game down and make it cheap, and learn how to win using cheap strategies, you need to hit up someone like Sosik Nashban. He's one of the smartest people I've ever talked to. He got the 2KMR with Mai, just doing like, yeah, this game is easy. Just throw EX fan and jump with them and throw them. But the way he breaks it down and makes it simple in his mind, he has a strategy for these things. He's an anime player. He plays multiplayer. He's a top level multiplayer player. He plays all these games. He's really good. I mean, he was also a fantastic Chunin 4. But the point is that he breaks games down strategically like that. Then there's different kinds of high level strategy. Snapplecap is a Guile player in EX Dojo, one of the head coaches. He's super smart. He's one of the only guys in America Knuckle Dude's willing to train with at that level because, he's just really smart. He's a smart guy. He knows exactly how to teach. He's really good at creating strategy. There's Zaffarino. Zaffarino's a strategy guy. Doc African's a strategy guy. Actually, I would say Doc's greatest strength is strategy over anything else. So what allowed him to beat Fudo in EVO 2019, allowed him to take any of the victories he's done in his career. Strategy. Some players are strategy players. They don't play around strong, I'm not going to say strong fundamentals, because I'm not going to say players don't have that, but it's different focuses, right? Like Punk's got strategy for sure, but his fundamentals are so powerful, they can dominate strategy. Strategy can fold. For example, let's say I'm a great judo guy, black belt, I'm a really, let's say even for my build in my weight class, let's say I'm like a really highly skilled judoka. I can throw anybody. I win competitions. I'm really great. If I was to, there's this guy called the Dutch Giant. He's 7'2" and he's 385 pounds. He's a famous bodybuilder. I literally physically cannot throw him. His arm alone, if I was to chop it off, his arm weighs like my whole body. Right? So I literally physically cannot throw him. He could pick me up with one hand and throw me like 20 feet. There's no amount of skill that can overcome something like that, right? And in fighting games, there's an element of that. There's a level of if you're so much fundamentally better than the other person, you could know actually everything about the matchup. You can have perfect strategies, really clean strategies, but you can break that with godlike fundamentals. Because eventually player interaction has to happen, no matter what your strategy is. And if you lose every interaction, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Nothing about your strategy matters if you lose every interaction. Right? Or let's say they have amazing reads. Let's say you're fighting like a Zangief player, like a Danny Pham or a Snake Eyes or an Itabashi. Let's say their reads are incredible. Man, strategy only takes you so far, because they will do things you never dreamed of. Because strategy is reliant on you understanding what could happen. And if they break what you think could happen by throwing curveballs, well, suddenly this match got a lot dirtier, right? You think you're so smart doing, stand medium kick and then doing a backdash until Itabashi forward blocks it, immediately forward dashes an SPD. Suddenly it's all out the window. No, we're playing something else now. Now this is a different game.
Yeah, that's what separates those types of players, right? It's just their level of understanding of player interaction. Okay, so those are some interesting insights about just how coaching has changed overall and what basically how coaching fits into the scene right now. So I guess the next thing I'm just kind of curious about is something more for the viewer in a way, or almost in a way. So I guess the question is just how is your overall how's your overall flow of coaching goes? What's your general I guess structure of how you teach somebody? What do you try to look for? How do you help players? How do you help them depending on what kind of person they are or whatnot? Does that differ or something like that?
Yes, yes, it has to. Actually, that's the sign of if you know how to teach at all or not. If you teach the same to every person, that works in an environment where you cannot be. Okay, so this is why school. First, let's talk about education as a whole.
Okay.
The reason schools teach classes and curriculum that are structured hey, every student that walks in here has the same curriculum, do the work, is because it is not feasible for a teacher to one-on-one teach properly, individually, 100 students in a classroom. It's not. We don't have the manpower. We simply don't. Right? There's 8 billion people in this world, and there's a lot more learners than there are teachers. Curriculum exists. The way that our school systems are structured exists to try and take the knowledge of what we have and spray it to a large amount of people, right? This is not how you would teach in a one-on-one private environment. That's more like what a tutor does, right? If you could have a college professor step out of the classroom and only work with you for an hour, he would teach you totally different than he did in that classroom. It has to be that way.
It has to.
Yeah, so for coaching, the sign of someone that knows how to teach for real is whether or not they actually pay attention to who you are as a person and mold things around you. This is not always easy. It requires people skills, and sometimes, you know, we're only human and we don't realize everything about the person we're working with. I try really hard to like get an accurate within the first session, an accurate idea of what I'm dealing with, of the kind of person they are. But you know, some people are more aloof or like harder to get a read on than others. Some people are more like all up out there with what kind of person they are. You get a good vibe for it. This happens for a lot of different reasons. People are nervous. It's a little awkward for them, or they're not, or maybe they're like super confident, so they put it all out there. They have nothing to hide. They want to get right up in there. You know, it all depends on how they approach it as well. The teacher can only do so much of that. If I deal with someone that tells me everything about themselves, it does make my life easier. So versus someone that's like really reserved, right? Because then I have to kind of pry for information, like, how do you like to do this and that? I have to ask a million questions, and I'm okay to do that, but it does make it hard. But yes, you have to mold your teaching to every individual person. Everyone learns differently, and if I try to teach you a way that does not mix well with what kind of person you are, it'll just not work. And you know, and I've had that before, where like I had a bad read on what kind of person they were. I thought it was one way, and I try to teach them, and it's just not jiving. And then I try something else, because like, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe you're actually this kind of person. And suddenly it clicks a lot better, right? So you have to reiterate, even as try to like not like shoehorn these people into one thing. Try to always be constantly reevaluating what kind of person they are or how they learn. And then the next piece is what I'm looking for is strengths and weaknesses. That's first, right? First I get a general level of what kind of level of player am I dealing with. So they might say something like, yeah, I've been playing for a long time, but what does that mean? Like, okay, well, rank doesn't tell a whole story either, because I've actually taught players before that were really good, but had never played ranked. They had like some weird anxiety, like they were like amazing. They were like beating like 1900 MR players like in battle lounges, but they had like this weird thing where like they didn't deserve to play ranked. Weird mental blocks. All kinds of people exist in this world.
Okay.
You know, and you come across these people, and it's like, well, you're deceptively a much better player than you advertise, right? So I know that but maybe it's because, you know, the only reason they're not already up there doing that is because they needed a little push. So maybe these players, it's less about the game and more about explaining to them where they truly are, their strengths.
Yeah, the mental part.
Yeah, like, hey man, you're a lot better than what you think you are. Here's why. You're doing things that only players of this caliber can do. You are beating players of this caliber already. I'm struggling to beat you as is, if beating you at all. Trust me, you're ready. Just go play. And then if you get stuck, then we can reevaluate from there. But just do it. Just do the damn thing. Right? Just do it. Right? Some people need that. Right. That's less of game coaching and life coaching, person coaching, which you also have to do. You cannot just teach the game. That's not what a good coach does not just teach. A lot of what I did with Grand Todokai was not about the game. Some of it was, obviously, there was stuff about the game. But a lot of what he needed to hear was related to confidence, related to, like, mentality stuff, mental. The game is an instrument, but this is the pilot, right? And if you have, let's say for example, every time you lose, you spiral into the self-destructive behavior. You get mad, throw sticks, you quit, like you rage quit on people. If you have this self-destructive mindset of like you fall apart at every single inconvenience, getting better is going to be very difficult for you, because, well, one, it's just time consuming to do all this performative crap. Let's say you play 1 1st to 2, and then you spend half an hour doing that. You finally cool off, you get back into a set, you lose the first 2 again, and you spend another half an hour blowing up. Well, you just wasted an hour of time over 2 1st to 2s. Like, like just from a time standpoint, you're wasting time.
Right. Yeah.
And also, it's not good for mental from the learning standpoint, because I promise you, by the time that 30 minutes of you blowing up is done, you have no recollection of what happened in that match. None.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, you're too focused on what happened, the angry part of it.
Yeah, you're not focused on why it happened.
Yeah, and also the last piece of that is overcoming adversity. The most human thing that makes us who we are is the ability to persevere through adversity, to pull ourselves up when things are hard and say, I will not surrender to this thing that is making me feel this way, right? Humans are incredibly resilient and very resourceful, and the thing that makes us special is that we're one of the only creatures that when we're in that thing, we can say, no, I will not. I will do this, right? And I think that reminding them of the strength of the human spirit is important, because that's something that will not just affect the way they play this video game that we both love, but also it's a life skill. What are you going to do when, let's say you just lost your job and then your car breaks down and you're having a mental breakdown over it because life is just throwing a million curveballs at you, and you feel like it's all... This is a mental health thing, right? There's a mental health crisis in this world right now. People are struggling. I'm not a professional or anything, but I will do what if I see someone in front of me, I will say, hey, like, you're tougher than you think you are. You can do this. And I think that I'm even without being a professional, or I'm not claiming to be, but I think it matters. People sometimes just need to hear that. They need to hear that someone cares. That they believe in them, right? And I'm not just saying it too. I believe it. I truly believe in the strength of the human spirit. Okay. These people, when they have these mental breakdowns over the game, it's because of some sort of deficiency. They feel like when they lose, it makes them less. People are judging me. I'm worthless. Why am I wasting my time on this? It's all been a waste. They keep having these thoughts spiraling in their mind. Banishing these thoughts is one of the first steps to them getting better at the game. But there's a lot of that. So I try to look out for, like, do you have these, like, mental blocks? Then I look for your strengths as a player. Then your weakness as a player. What are you missing? Then we have, that's why my first session with students is usually an evaluation session where I figure out what you are. And then going forward from there, it'll be based on what I think you need. Some players I will sit with while they play ranked, and I will live coach them, watch replays together, go to training, like, hey, let's go to training mode after and cover this. And we'll iterate, do that over and over again. That's what I did with Totokai. Some players don't need that because they can do that part on their own. Right. They can do the watching replays, iteration, playing ranked on their own. So more of what they need is, like, they're confused on what the next step is. They don't know what their weaknesses are. They're like, I keep losing and I don't really see. I'm trying to figure it out, but I don't see the hole. So I'll play them. I'll be like, look, this is how I beat you. You're whether or not you agree or see it, this is what you are doing. It happened. I did it to you. Right? Like, that's the facts. That's the end.
Yeah. Right?
Like, your defense is like, you're challenging in the spots you shouldn't be in this spot. You teched right here and you were mid screen. There was no reason to tech there. You spent bar in a situation where you didn't need to spend bar and got yourself closer to burnout when you actually were at a place of advantage, or you were winning and you overextended. Right? Like, you didn't need to go in and do something, but you did. You didn't need to drive. I checked your drive rush with level, or let's say a level 3 did. You didn't need to drive rush there. You could have just done nothing. Actually, I was about to lose. I didn't know how I was about to make that win. But luckily, we're a team and you helped me to win. Thank you. That's why I always like to phrase that. It's a little annoying, but it helps me get the point across.
Yeah.
Because the moment you tell someone in a 1v1 game, hey, we're a team. Thank you, man. They're like, they're like, man, guy. Like,
yeah. Like, oh,
I want to drive it home. I say things also like, I couldn't have done it without you.
Really,
right? Like, it's because it's true. Like, if you had not done that, I did not have a. You opened a door for me that for me was locked. Thank you. I didn't have the key.
Right.
So you opened the door for me. I was a vampire and you let me in your house. Thank you.
So yeah, it sounds like a lot of your coaching style really comes down to, like, like just trying to be empathetic of the player and trying to just understand like their learning process really in particular, right? So,
but then all presenting reality when it's needed. Some players need reality.
okay.
They need to be told, like, for example, I've had players tell me, dude, my anti-airs are perfect, but people keep jumping and I keep dying. Well, they can't be too perfect because they're jumping and you're dying. You know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit of there's a cognitive dissonance some players have where they're not willing to accept that maybe they're not as good at something and maybe it's something they're proud of. Maybe his anti-airs are actually pretty good, but it's like, well, you see, I've discovered it. Your anti-airs are only good when you're looking for jumps, not raw reaction. So every time you get in a scrambly or like a weird situation in neutral, I can jump at you and to prove, and they're like, oh well, that doesn't sound right. We'll go play, and I will literally recreate the situation and be like, yeah, I knew it, and then I'll just jump at them in those spots over and over again, and then I'll be like, see, I just jumped you 10. You anti-aired me once out of like 9 times that I jumped. Obviously, I'm right. You know what I mean? Like, this is reality. You can't argue with statistics of what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Do you think I'm just getting lucky that I jumped correctly 9 times out of 10?
Like, at some point, you just gotta accept, like, what happened actually just happened, right?
Yeah. So at some point, you have to give players a little, but you don't want to give them, like, you're not gonna be mean about it. You do have to give them a little dose of reality.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, this is what happened. This is what's going on here, right?
Yeah.
And once they accept it, then they're like, oh, okay, well, so what do I do now? At the moment they're at the what do I do now stage, they're receptive of information. You tell them how to fix it, give them drills for it, they're on the right path. But first you have to break away the delusion. Dude, I've seen Doc teach. If Doc ever sees this, he'll probably comment and be like, that's true shit. A lot of the people Doc's taught, he had to do so much effort to break delusion. There's a lot of deluded people that they have like some sort of, again, cognitive dissonance. They don't understand, like, I don't do that. But look, I was bad about this too. When I was coming up under Doc will definitely comment if he sees this. There was a lot of times where it was like, man, I don't do that. You're wrong. And then Doc will literally be like, but you literally just did it like 5 times in a row.
In a row. Yeah, you really try to bring the point across, yeah.
Yeah, so it's important that you are guiding people while also keeping them in line with reality, while also not making them feel bad about themselves so they give up. So you want to focus on strengths too. What are you doing well? It's not about what are you doing wrong. What are you doing well? How can we make what you're good at better?
Okay.
Right? Can we boost your strengths? For example, I found players that are like really good offensively. They have great reads on offense. There's a player I ran into. There's a Street Fighter 5 Discord where people still actively play the game. There's this guy called Sir Grunch. He's a Keith player that was platinum when the game was out, and then since 6 has been out, he got to Ultimate Grandmaster in 5 playing Keith. But he's like this dead game warrior. But his Keith is like really good offense. It feels like I'm playing Danny Pham or something. I was like, bro, your offense is godlike. So like, why am I beating him? Like, well, you're neutral, right? So like, you help him, and you focus on his strengths. You give him, like, his strengths are strong. Like, I'm getting mixed. He's mixing the crap out of me. Every time I jump away, he jumps with me, air SPD. He whiff throws, OS is my backdash. Like, I cannot escape on defense. It's hard. But his neutral, as long as I don't get got, it feels like I'm in complete control. And that's like that's the thing. If you can learn how to overcome that, you'd be like one of the strongest geese I've ever fought, right? And that makes him feel confident. They're like, okay, I need to work on this, right? Like, you don't just push people like, oh, well, I could just easily say, well, you're just being carried by Keith. That's just garbage. You need to learn new. You don't want to phrase things in a way that demoralizes people, right? So remind them their strengths are good, and then they need things that support that.
Right. Yeah. Strengths and weaknesses, both, essentially.
Yeah. And how do you balance giving that to people? Is part of what makes you charismatic teacher.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, because a lot of it really comes down to just like because it's individualized coaching. Yeah, empathy plays a big role. Like trying to understand like their strengths and weaknesses, and always just like kind of reminding them like, yeah, they can do this whenever they're in like that whole like frustration phase of like their learning process, essentially. Okay. So yeah. So far, I appreciate all the answers so far. It's very well explained. I can tell you're very passionate about this, like about the community and like just your job as like a coach. So I wanted to close it off by just kind of getting like, I just want to know like if there's any more like extra opinions you had, like or some more like understandings that you wish more people will understand about like not just coaching but just trying to improve as a player overall. Like if there's anything you just want to address.
Actually, yes, there is.
Okay.
To anyone who's listening out there, my honest advice to you is be realistic and honest to yourself. How badly do you want it, and why do you want it? If you want to get better, to be the best, you have to ask yourself, do you really believe in your heart that you're doing everything you can to do that? And if so, why aren't you achieving it? What's the missing piece? Without being self-defeating or self-destructive, what is missing? Be realistic, be honest, and you gotta be Sherlock Holmes, like House diagnosing an illness. You gotta find the problem, right? You need to. A lot of players, I've seen, they are not willing to be honest with their work ethic. They'll be like, "Well, I play." Well, yes, but when was the last time you watched a replay and really knew what you were looking at? When was the last time you actually grilled something in training mode for hours, right? At the highest level of this game, like especially Japanese players, because they have an outstanding work ethic. If you were to look at these people's like what they do to practice, week to week, month to month, it's inhuman. And I'm gonna give you an example from something I know from personal experience of StarCraft. Korean StarCraft is probably the pinnacle of work ethic I think I've ever seen ever. In anything. In StarCraft 1, team houses were it's borderline slavery what they do to players in the sponsored team houses. You are required by contract to play 13 hours a day.
13 hours a day. Okay.
7 days a week.
7 days a week. So literally
Actually,
the whole day almost.
yes, you get smoke breaks, you get heat breaks, and then you sleep. I think occasionally you do. I think you do get days off. I'm not 100% positive on that. This has been a long time since I've seen these contracts. But some of these team houses, like they would literally get like a 15-minute smoke break, but they have to smoke break at the computer. Like they're not even allowed to get up.
Really? Okay.
It's that some houses were different, but some houses were very strict, and the players were okay with this. They tolerated this. Why? Because they want to be the best. And this is how you do it. If everyone else is doing this and you are not able to compete. It sounds unfair because if you're not living that lifestyle, how could you possibly compete? And that is unfair. And I'm sorry, but that is reality. You are not going to beat someone like Kawano or Tokido that lives, breathes, and eats and sleeps this game, putting in 1/20th of the effort they do. It's almost insulting to even think that you could, right? Like, imagine if I decided, well, I'm going to practice 1 hour a day, but in a month, I'm going to be better than LeBron James at basketball. It makes no sense. It's just again, cognitive dissonance. You're like disconnected from reality. So my advice is for all of you out there that really, truly want to be the best, get better, be honest. What are your goals? What level of effort are you willing to put in to achieve them? And if you cannot achieve them with that level of effort, you need to be honest about that too. Like, You either have to step it up or tone down your expectations. Like, to be the best in anything requires sacrifice, and that's what makes it special. When you see someone like Tokido, a lot of people don't know, but Tokido sacrificed a lot to be as good as he is in fighting games. He graduated from Tokyo University. He literally literally had like a degree in rocket science or something. Tokido's one of the smartest people in the FGC IQ wise.
Oh yeah.
Tokyo University, a lot of people don't know, but Tokyo University is one of the 10 most difficult schools in the entire planet to graduate from. He graduated with like a master's, like I think literally in rocket science. Like actually. Or it's something like that. You can look it up. Tokido actually is a very intelligent person who decided to put his career and other aspects of his life on hold for fighting games. He's a very hard worker. All he does is practice. All he does is think of new ways to practice. He doesn't just practice other ways people tell him to practice. He constantly invents new theories, new ideas. This is how I'll get a leg up. This is how I'll get better. All he does all day is think about that. Keep in mind, he's like 37 now or something.
Yeah.
He has sacrificed a significant amount of his life to fighting games. He's been playing fighting games since he was like 13 or something. Do you really think you're going to overcome that and defeat him with minimal effort? You have to be realistic, right? And if you say, well, my goal isn't to beat someone like that, well, then your goal is not to be the best.
Simple.
Because it's that simple. To be the best, you have to be able to beat anybody. Because that's what being the best means. If I go to Capcom Cup, I'm expected to be able to, well, not, obviously there's levels of skill, right? But my goal is to beat everybody there and win. Why wouldn't it be? Why else would you go to Capcom Cup to not want to beat everyone there, right? So if you're not trying to beat everyone there, then your goal's not Capcom Cup. It shouldn't be. If your goal is to just get good enough where you have fun with the game, that's easy enough. It doesn't require that much practice. Let's say you just like 1600, 1700 MR, where you can hold your own with almost basically anybody except top level talent and have a lot of fun with the game. Well, that's a very attainable goal. A lot of people can attain that. That's a very good level. That's equivalent in my mind of like the Ultra Diamond Master Rank level in Street Fighter V. There's a lot of people at that level in 5, and they all had a lot of fun with the game, and that's good. That's good. If that's your goal, that's a good level. But if you're trying to be like the sweaty warlords, like, you know, the Metro M's, the like all the top level people that are like they're in those TNSs, or let's say Street Fighter 6, right? You're trying to go into TNS and you're trying to beat the Knuckle dudes, beat the Booses, beat the whoever, right? You're not gonna beat those guys half-assing it. They love the game. They put everything into the game. Be realistic. Set a standard for what your goals are, what you want to happen, and be realistic with how you're trying to achieve them. The moment delusion enters the conversation with any aspect of how you train, you will always either have a upset mental balance from not achieving what you think is your goal, or something. Like you'll be either upset with yourself because you feel like it's not happening. I just suck. Well, you know, like that's because you're trying to make the impossible happen. You know what I mean? Like, so it's either you change your work style and work harder, or do you change your goal? Something has to change. You have to be realistic, right? I'm not going to learn how to fly a plane by playing Ace Combat. You know what I mean? Like, I have to eventually just learn how a plane works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
you gotta go to school for that eventually.
Yeah, like you can't mess around and just expect things to fall in your lap. Like, that's not life. It sucks because sometimes we wish it was that way. I wish it was just the Matrix, where like you could just download. I know Kung Fu, right? Like you know how cool that would be. But also, there's another thought I just had too. It also would be a scary world because it would cheapen the soul of things. Sometimes when I see someone that knows how to play guitar, I'm not just impressed because their guitar playing is good. It also, I'm an analyst kind of person. I look at that person and go, wow, this is a guy who dedicated effort to learning something, and that's very impressive. And it tells me about what did he go through? you look at his fingers. There's calluses. There's, you know, strings.
Mhm.
He had to endure effort, perseverance, and it makes me appreciate that person. So if I knew that he just downloaded the guitar into his brain, the guitar sounds good and I'll enjoy it, but it doesn't tell me anything about the person.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But in a world where effort is rewarded with a mastery of something, I can appreciate. You know, this must have been very hard for you, and I think that your playing is wonderful. Thank you for playing this for me.
Yeah.
Right? You know, when I see this in Street Fighter, and I can see how hard someone like Kawano works, or any of these top players work, it's beautiful. These people truly love the game, and they do love it almost more than anybody else. They love Street Fighter, and I love Street Fighter because I love this game too. So seeing how much they love the game is moving. You know, like Tokido said, fighting games are something so great. They bring us all together, and I think that being able to appreciate how hard other people work and seeing it for what it is special. You know, and if everybody could just download and beat Tokido instantly without any effort, it would cheapen what it is.
Yeah.
It would still be cool from a gameplay standpoint, how high the level is, but you would no longer feel emotionally moved by it. I think
It's one of the reasons why Evil Moment 37 was so popular, right? Because it just took a lot of skill and time to really like execute.
It was
like that.
It was unheard of at the time. Like that parry now is doable by a lot of people. Actually, there's a lot of third strike players that know how to do that parry. The difference is at the time it was unheard of.
Right. Yeah.
This is 2004 we're talking about, right? The level is really high nowadays, but at the time it was unbelievable, right? And it still is an incredible moment, of course. A good example actually of what I'm talking about with like the cheapening the soul thing is like you know how there's like the whole discourse on Twitter right now, like AI art versus real artists or whatever.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine instead of like AI, but like imagine that same concept translating to gameplay, right? Like it would cheapen everything because why learn anything when you can just do it, right? Is part of. I'm not trying to get all into the whole execution debate because it's a whole can of worms, but I do think that it's beautiful when you see hard work rewarded and you see people persevere and be like, I did it. I could, like, you have that I did it moment, right? From all their work paying off. And I think that if people were automatically good without any effort, you would never see that moment again. And I think it would cheapen the human experience.
Yeah, 100%. So again, yeah, and the only way to really just kind of get a moment like that is to just be real with yourself and like just kind of like accept the reality that if you ever want to achieve something of that caliber, well, you gotta put in the effort, right? Like quite literally.
And that's life. Everything in life works that way. Everything. You want to be a doctor, you gotta go to med school and you gotta work hard. You want to be a lawyer, you gotta go to law school and work hard. If you want something in life, it is achievable by anyone. I truly believe that. Yes, there are things that hold people back that are not fair, but I truly believe like people that work truly very hard and are realistic about how hard they work and actually put in the real effort can achieve anything. There's a lot of people that think they work hard and are actually cutting corners, they're not disciplined, they're not doing as much as they could. And if they would be real with themselves, suddenly they would achieve so much more than they ever thought they could. And that's life, not just Street Fighter, that's life.
That's life,
you know?
I see. Okay. Well, that'll be all of our time for basically the whole podcast interview today. Espadah, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate hearing your insight on all of this stuff. I'll have everything like down below. Just like have all of his socials, his Medify page, and his Twitch and all that stuff. So,
thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. So I thank you for coming again. And
anytime.
So please subscribe for more stuff like this, and I'll see you all tuned in the next video. Take it easy, y'all.